Yeah, so you might have encountered or taken on some unproductive debt, but don't beat yourself up over it. That's why starting these conversations is more important than ever, because you have a longer time to go than what's behind you. You can pay off that debt, you can turn a bad into a good, you can pivot. So, and another thing that's interesting about debt, I know you're a numbers guy. I don't even want to know what you went through with some of your accounting classes. I don't even want to know.
Facts.
I have a couple, I just finished up my second business degree. Accounting is a beast. And so I know that you see numbers and
it's something else.
It's something else. And one thing, just to touch the numbers a little bit, I know people love the numbers. For example, someone will say, okay, Trevor, what's a good debt or bad debt interest rate wise? Should I take out a loan and invest it somewhere else? I'll break it down a little bit, then I'll get your input on it. If someone comes to me and says, Trevor, I can give you $50,000 at 3% interest. You're paying me 3% interest on that $50,000. If I know for certain, I'm pretty confident that I can take that $50,000 and invest it elsewhere and get 9%, I'm looking at that like a pretty good debt, because I know I can get 9%, that money's growing, and then I can pay homie back his 3%.
Thanks.
And that 6% difference, give or take a little bit, I've profited. I've utilized that debt to get a higher return on investment versus the person that I owe. So, I mean, are there any methods you use to categorize good or bad debt versus buying a car or buying a home? Like, does it come down to the numbers sometimes?
Yeah, that's exactly what I do. I say, all right, if the interest rate is going to be 3, can I get 8? Can I get 10? And if I can't, then that's a bad debt. That's a bad move. And I think that's easy numbers. And I think what people got to understand is that's exactly what the bank does with your money. Exactly. Just how we said the savings interest rate that you're going to get is 0.00 something crazy, right?
Something crazy.
So what the bank is doing is they're saying, let us hold your money. Let us keep your money safe, and we'll give you some interest, and we'll give you 0.00052 on your money. But the same money that you give them is the same money that they turn around and give somebody a car loan on. So if you give them $15,000 and they're giving you 0.00052% back on your money, but your boy went out and got a Toyota Camry, and his interest rate on that Camry loan is 4%. What they did is they took your money, gave you 0.00 whatever on your money, and turned around and loaned your money to somebody else at 4%. And that's how banks make a return on their investment. So we got to do the same thing. If I'm getting, so for instance, I just got a $35,000 personal line of credit that I'm going to use to invest in real estate. When I'm breaking down the investment, I'm just saying, my interest rate on the personal line of credit is 5%. If I can find a real estate investment that's 15% or more, then that's gravy. That's good money.
That's 10%. So, that's in a king's pocket.
Facts. So that's exactly how I break it down. Is the return I'm getting better than what I'm borrowing at? Okay.
I like that a lot. It's you got to dig into the numbers, because credit cards on average. They're crazy. They're crazy. 17 to 25, 30%. Crazy. Like those numbers, you gotta dig into the details. And these things, like, you have to pick up and call. You have to get in contact and get the ball rolling, start a conversation about where you're at. And that debt piece is so big, because the older you get, you realize how many people are making great money, but that cycle is vicious
cycle. And I'll give an example on like breaking down the numbers. So when you buy a home, and this is, I'm not mad at banks or anything, but banks make money, bro. So look, let's say you go buy a home, you get a 30-year mortgage, which is the standard mortgage that most people get these days. So when you buy a home and put it on a 30-year mortgage, you are most likely paying 75% more for that home than you actually bought it for. So let's say you bought a house for $200,000. Over 30 years, you're gonna pay the bank $175,000 in interest. That's almost twice the amount that you bought the home, right? So that's why banks are pushing home ownership. They want you to buy a house, because they're gonna make what you bought for the house twice over 30 years. So you got to that's why some people say that your house isn't an asset, because you pay a lot more for your house than what is on the contract when you buy the house. So when we're talking about numbers, 30-year mortgage, you're paying a lot for that 30-year mortgage.
You're paying a lot. I'm glad you just hit the what is an asset, especially when the home ownership, because a lot of people watching this video either maybe are interested in buying a home in the near future, or just bought a home and don't really understand the long-term amount of money that they're going to pay, and that's totally fine. But when you make big purchases, you have to start digging into the numbers, or you have to find somebody that knows what they're talking about, because you're going to look up and say, I wish I would have known then what I know now. So with banks, that's a really interesting concept, man. I'll never forget. I must have been like 6 or 7 years old. I had four older siblings, 2 parents, and someone told me how a bank operates when I was like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So I remember being under my mattress. I went to all of my siblings, right? And I'm taking this somewhere. I went to all of my siblings and I said, "Yo, can I get $1, $2?" I was like maybe 7 or 8, and I was putting the money, sibling 1, sibling 2, sibling 3, under my mattress. You know what I was doing with that money? I was trying to go buy Pokemon cards. My deep wish was that everybody would not come back to me at the same time and ask for their money, because I would be like, I'm gonna give you some interest. I put a dime. Somebody give me $1. I put a dime on top of their $1. But if everybody came to me at once, I was not in a good position.
I had the money.
And banks operate in a similar way, in that they only have to have a certain percentage of amount of cash in reserve, and that's why your bank isn't going to let you come take $10,000-$15,000 out of the ATM at once, because they're scared everybody's going to do that. And it's a vicious cycle in that aspect too. So okay, so the banks lend your money out, or the banks charge you a higher interest rate, and then they're giving interest to somebody else at a much lower interest rate.
Absolutely.
And that money in the middle is their profit margin. So be completely aware of that, and that's why we say invest. After save, you got to invest. Just saving is not enough. Okay, so you spoke about assets. I know that's a big conversational debate, especially for the home. Let's start with the home, around whether a home is an asset or a liability. What makes it one or the other?
For me, it's getting a return. So houses for me are a bit of a gray area, because you can look at it 2 ways. You could look at, I bought my house and I understand that if I buy a $200,000 house, I'm gonna pay $175,000 in interest. So the total I paid for the house over 30 years is $375,000. I understand that. And then you could say, well, what's the benefits of renting? When I look at it, I say, all right, you bought the house for $200,000. You paid a lot of interest, but at the end of the day, at the end of the 30 years, do you still have that house? Do you still have that asset? Can you get money back from that asset? And usually the answer is yes. So if you buy a $200,000 house today, in 30 years, and let's say it's worth $300,000. All right, so if you paid $375,000 for the house, at the end of the 30 years, it's only worth $300,000. You've lost $75,000. So for me, that wouldn't be an asset. That's going to be a liability. But on the other side, if you're looking at forced savings, that's a concept I like, forced savings. So if you bought that house and then now it's worth $300,000 versus if you rented for 30 years, at the end of the 30 years when you rent, nothing. Like, you're not going to have anything to show for that. But at the end of the 30 years, if you bought the house, even if it's a net loss, even if you lost $75,000, you still have that $300,000 asset at the end of the day. And what you really did was you forced yourself to save that money.
I've never heard that term before, but that makes perfect sense. Nah, I might even have you break that down. So it's forced savings.
Forced savings. So I'll give you another example. So tax refunds. So a lot of people will say you should not owe or get a refund at the end of the tax year. What you should do is you should work your tax situation out so well that you don't owe at the zero. You're not getting a refund. You're not paying the government any money. Because if you think about it, if you get deep about it, when you think about a tax refund, all that means is that you paid too much in taxes throughout the year. That means that you were paying taxes, and at the end of the year, the government says, "Oh, dang, our bad. You paid too much taxes. Let me give you this refund back on your money." So some people would say, "Oh, well, you gave the government a free loan for the year."
Yeah.
Right? But I really don't. I think that's accurate, but I don't prescribe to that.
Okay.
Because if I got $100 extra a check, who knows what I'd do with that?
Yeah.
I might trick it off every month, right? So what I like to do is I like to force myself to save by getting a tax refund at the end of the year.
Okay.
Even if I'm giving the government a free loan throughout the year, that doesn't matter to me.
It's for savings.
It's for savings because I know I'm going to get a refund at the year. I'm going to get a lump sum, and I can plan. So what I'm doing now is I'm planning, all right, what am I going to get for this year's tax return?
Okay.
If I get 10 G's, this how I'm gonna freak it.
Okay.
Right. So for me, that's for savings, and the house is the same thing. If you buy a house for $200,000, you pay $175 in interest. At the end of 30 years, you've paid $375,000 for your home total. At the end of the 30 years, it's also worth $300,000. Technically, you lost money because you paid more, $375, than what it's worth at $300. So you lost $75, but it's better than renting because at the end of 30 years with renting, you don't have anything left. But the house, you still have the $300,000 that you forced yourself to save because you had to pay your mortgage. So now you have $300,000 in forced savings.
Forced savings.
Forced savings.
Y'all see me writing. I'm getting gems from this dude. I'm not leaving out a gem. My job is strictly to, have a couple of drinks with people that know what they're talking about and go from there. Okay, so the forced savings aspect, and I revert. A lot of people, that example was gold. People can understand if I always, a couple of tools like people that never purchased a home before, or even if you didn't, even not even just home, not even talking about just homes. When you can really look at whether something is an asset or liability, it comes down to, is it bringing you cash, or if not, is it forcing you to save, and what does that look like over the long term? The first time I heard that when you buy a house, you pay for it 2 to 3 times over, it was like, wow, 100,000 is really 300,000, 500,000 is really $1 million. Something you can go and look at that. You can Google a mortgage calculator. You can Google a mortgage calculator, a mortgage amortization schedule sheet, and they can show you, hey, this is your interest rate. Interest rates are at an all-time low right now, right?
All-time low.
They're pretty low.
All-time low.
3.5.
I'm seeing people getting 2 9s on
2 9s,
man. 2 9s, bro.
I'm
actually trying to refinance my rental property. Right, I need that 2 9.
That 2 9.
I need that 2 9, bro.
At that 2 9, that 2 9 says what? What does that interest rate mean? That's what you're paying the bank, or
that's the money that you're paying the bank back. So if you get a $200,000 house, you're either going to pay the bank 4% interest a year, or you're going to pay them 2.9% interest a year. And to give you some perspective, like a couple decades ago, like mortgages were 15%, like 15% a year. So if you're getting in for 2 9, that's almost free money, bro.
Yeah,
that's almost free money.
That's almost free money. That definitely. So for savings, man, because another thing that it comes down to is in the age that we're in, as millennials, all these studies coming out saying millennials have the most difficult landscape of becoming financially independent than ever due to us having buku student loans, housing prices continuing to rise for many different reasons. Forced savings is interesting because pensions, most people don't have pensions, meaning you have a pretty guaranteed amount that you're going to have during retirement. We're not talking about, Social Security or anything here, but the 401k is what I'm getting to. The 401k, the 403bs, these tax deferred accounts, a lot of people, this is their largest bucket when it comes to like retirement savings. And I look at it like that. I look at it because it's a forced savings. Just because you have a 401k or a 403b or a TSP does not mean that you're a financial expert, or that you knew what you were doing. But what it really is a forced savings. If you signed up for it and you were 30 years old and you're like, damn, I've been paying into the same bucket for 20 years. I don't know where it's going, but I know I've been paying into it. Well, you've basically been forcing yourself to save. Just imagine if on top of your normal job that you put money into this bucket for retirement savings, you're forcing yourself to save in other avenues of life. that's when you really start to accumulate wealth,
Right.
whether you're putting it in real estate, your retirement accounts, businesses, multiple accounts, multiple different facets. You start to really build up a large bucket of money. So I'm glad you dropped that gem from a forced savings standpoint. Okay, and a liability.
Yeah, liability. It's anything that takes money out of your pocket. Simple. So if you, let's take your car. Your car's not always a liability, right? So if you need reliable transportation to get to your gig, right, and your gig is making you more than you pay on the car, that might be an asset for you. But if you're, and it just depends on how much it is. So if you don't need a Range Rover to get to work, right, don't get a Range Rover. If you only need a Toyota to get to work, then get a Toyota, pay the interest on the money, but you're making, let's say your car note is $300, but if you're making, $2,000 a check, what's your car, right? You just got to be smart enough to know what you need in a car. You got to know that this is to get me from A to B, to get me to my gig, to make some money so I can pay this car note and beyond. So for me, liability is anything that just strictly takes money out of your pocket. So I would say going to Ruth Chris to get a dinner on your credit card is a liability, but it's all how you see it. If I take my future wife to Ruth Chris and that was the date that really set it off, right? And that's an asset for me. That worked out real well for me.
Nah, that was dope. It's really perspective. It's really perspective. Something can look like a liability and turn into an asset, vice versa.
Yep.
Okay. Oh man. All right. So we broke down your shirt. You have hustle, save, invest, reinvest, create a legacy, build a community. You've also had some different merch, some things that you created in your financial platform. What you want to talk about first? You got another shirt, you got a children's book. These conversations have to start earlier than ever, man. Let's start with your second shirt, and then also let's go into your book, because I know it's a lot of people out here with young children that, I feel like these conversations are great, and I know that our parents, our grandparents are extremely proud of us and having these conversations. They're like, oh, you doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's why I sent you off to school to get $100,000 a day. Turn that up. And so now it's on us. It's our responsibility to start having these conversations with the 7, 8, 10-year-olds of the world, because the earlier they introduce, they'll get it. So let's talk about another shirt of yours and then go into there, man.
So the second shirt is what I call the bag talk shirt. So I think a lot of us get caught up in the hype of the bag, in that we limit it to what we grew up seeing. So when I was first growing up, like a lot of people, I thought balling, entertainment, etc., was like really talking about the bag. But a lot of the times when we listen to rap music, hip hop music, a lot of the music in our culture, and not knocking it at all, because hip hop raised me, for real. We talk about consumerism through it. We talk about buying bottles at the club. We talk about getting the jewelry. We talk about getting the cars, the clothes, dropping a bag on the honey, and we take that as bag talk. We take that as talking about money. So with the bag talk T-shirt, I wanted to talk about the real bag, right? So it just says bag talk on the front, and then it has like other finance terms, so like IRA, wealth, net worth, stacking, cash flow, hedge funds, index funds.
It's all on here.
So a lot of stuff that I really feel is like really talking about the bag, because you're not getting the bag until you're turning what you're making active into something passive. Until you're taking that $100,000 you make a year and turning that into $50,000 passive income. So this is a passive income stream for me, right? I made the design for the shirt. I got the shirts printed. I do stuff like this. People get interest. They buy it off the site. I don't have to do anything from there, right? People just buy it. So that's the bag talk shirt, is really trying to get people to understand the lingo. Because I think as much as we like to break it down to simple terms, when we go out in the world, it's not always simple terms. So we can't just say, I think the house is going to be worth this much. We got to say the ARV, or the after repair value on the house is this much. So you got to know the lingo as much as understanding it, right? Second thing is the kids book. So this is Philip's Forgetful Fortune. It's a kids book that I wrote, and it's really about savings. So you want to start everything starts in the home. So I think we complain a lot and we have issues about the educational system in America. But education has to start at home. Homeschool is not an option, right? Homeschool is necessary.
Thanks.
So as parents, as adults, we have to get game. We have to practice the game, and then we have to teach our kids the game early. So Philip's Forgetful Fortune is about a kid that learned how to save early. He gets an allowance. His parents set up an automatic transfer to his checking account, and he saves money without him knowing because it's automatic. It just goes to his checking account. And for me, that's my number one savings tip. That's what really got me started in savings, is automatic transfers, because you don't feel it coming. Once it's automatic and it starts going and it keeps going and it keeps going, you just like, oh, I make $1,000, but I send $100 to my checking account every week, so I really only make $900. Right? So it's about a kid that his parents set him up with a savings account. He gets an allowance and he consistently puts his money into his allowance, and before he knows it, he can buy a bike, and then he teaches his friend how to buy the same bike that he bought through savings. So it's just a good tool to start the conversation between parents and their children of how to save and how that benefits them and how it can help kids buy the things they want through setting up automatic savings.
That's super dope, bro. Philip's Forgetful Fortune. Everybody probably has a book that they read as a child, in their youth, that they don't forget. I remember the first book I read, kindergarten, Greenbrier Primary, like on Cherry Street, was my first book that I read. Make books a priority in your household.
Thanks.
Make books a priority in your household. Have these conversations. I tell people now, like, I get it. Okay, we were never taught this stuff in school. I've said it many times myself.
Yep.
But you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing anybody younger than you a disservice if you're not having these conversations with them now. You can't say I wasn't taught these things in school, but you know it now, but you're not going back and teaching these things to people that are in school now, because they're going to grow up, be 30, 40, 50 years old and say the exact same thing. So that excuse, as of today, moving forward, not even today, but a few weeks, few years back, let's throw that out the window now and just have these conversations, teach people 10, 15, 19 years old about what's really going on, so that they can be 10 times better than what we are. And on top of that, this is a little left, but it's very necessary, and it's on my mind, is everything that's on your Bag Talk t-shirt, and even on your original t-shirt with all the steps you broke down, is a lot of people in the community may not have access to wealth because of previous criminal convictions. They might have a felony. And one thing I realized about real estate and stocks is, if you are a felon, have multiple misdemeanors, things like that, you can still play in some of America's largest games. You may not be able to play in every single game, but in the largest games where the most money is at, if you have a charge, you can still go flip a property, you can still buy a home, you can still push money into stocks. You might go away to jail and have money in stocks sitting and growing. So that's a point of emphasis for people that have been put into that category.
Bro, for the people that, I think that's so much. So for the people that have been put in that category, I can't speak from personal experience because I've never been put in that category, but I got plenty of homies that have. Bro, you are a hustler.
Facts.
Go hustle. Go make it happen. To get in the real estate, to get in the stocks, you don't have to put your name on nothing, get no background check for nothing. You just got to be able to hustle, make it work. So if you a hustler, bro. Go get the money.
Yeah. Point blank period. Go get the money. That's step number one. Hustle.
Facts.
That's step number one. You can do all of these steps, and don't limit yourself. It's free game.
Free game.
It's free game out here, man. So all right, Akiem, I appreciate you, bro.
Hey, my man.
You broke down every aspect of it. Y'all, please, for your children, elementary school teachers, middle school teachers, buy these books.
Facts.
They're necessary. Don't say that the resources aren't out there. Buy these books. Order them. Where can they find these books at?
Hit up the Solutions Group. So on Instagram, we're at the Solutions Group. Website is Starting the Convo. So starting the conversation, but convo short. StartingTheConvo.com. at the Solutions Group everywhere on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. I'm Akiem Jones. I'm at Akiem J the CPA. So holla at us, man. We talking that finance talking, and shout out to you, man. Just because one of my things is I think that finances and wealth has to be sexier from an actual wealth standpoint. And I think making a save and sip where we're having a good time, we're having an organic, natural conversation, and bringing people into that is so much furthering the conversation.
Yep.
So yeah, hit us up on Instagram, social media. If you want to chat one-on-one, I'm always open to that. But shout out to you for the platform.
I appreciate
and all
that, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Now keep pushing that. Keep starting and pushing the conversation. Is necessary.
Necessary.
It's fun. After a while, it becomes a game,
Bro.
It becomes a game.
Ain't no game like the money game.
Ain't no game.
The real money game.
You put money in your homegirl investment. She bring you back a return. You put that into the stocks. Next thing you know, y'all done flipped the property on the college y'all went to. Next thing you know, it's a game, and then it's a game that can become fun. So do your research. Google, YouTube. The more you hang around it, you will start to pick up the terminology. Ask questions. Reach out to Akiem. Reach out to the Solutions Group. Read the book. Put these resources in front of your children, because they'll give you perspectives that you never realized you weren't even observing. And just continue to apply pressure, man. So Akiem, I appreciate you.
My man.
Save and Sip, the Solutions Group. This was epic, man.
Thanks.
Till next time, we'll see y'all. Take care.
One love, peace.
Sir. Good shit, bro.
Yeah.
3 minutes.